What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning back in to another episode of Florida Prison Talk. We got something a little different for y'all today. This story right here is a story about redemption. But first, we're going to speak out what came before the redemption. I'm not even going to say no more. Introduce yourself, bro.
So what's up? My name is Ariel Cruz. In Spanish, it's Ariel, but English, Ariel. So right now I'm living in Northern California, but I'm from Brooklyn, New York.
Okay, you from Brooklyn. Okay, what part of Brooklyn you from?
I was born in Sunset Park, but I was raised in Flatbush. So I was always in between. Every time people ask me where I'm from, I say Flatbush and Sunset Park because I lived in Flatbush, but I was always in Sunset Park, Brooklyn.
Okay, and those neighborhoods you grew up in, what was the makeup? What was the race of those neighborhoods? You was around a bunch of different races? Was it all Dominican?
Honestly, where I grew up in Flatbush, it was mostly Black. So in the block that I grew up, it was, as a Spanish person, I was the minority. So it was mostly Black. The people that I grew up with in my block was Crip. In Sunset Park, it's mostly Hispanic neighborhood. So a lot of my family lived there. Just my mom lived in Flatbush, but most of my family lived in Sunset Park. So in terms of Sunset Park, it was mostly Hispanic.
Okay, it was mostly Hispanic. Okay, and
yeah.
How was it when you was young? You growing up, remember how was Dominicans being treated by the other races? Were you guys getting like singled out?
See, I didn't get to experience that too much until high school. So, growing up in Flatbush, I went to elementary school in Flatbush, mostly all Black, but minority was Spanish. So we didn't really. It wasn't nothing too crazy in elementary school. Then middle school, the same thing. Now, when I went to high school, FDR high school, when you're in high school, everything changes. So you see a lot of, especially in the gang life. So that's where I got exposed to gang life in high school. You see that Dominicans were singled out, especially by the gang members. So that's where I saw it.
Okay. And did you have your mother and father in the house?
I had my mom. My dad actually got locked up when I was 5 years old. So my father was a restaurant owner. He was a chef, but he was hustling on the side as well. So he was dealing drugs while he had his restaurant. And, honestly, my dad was a great dad in terms of being there for me, showing me affection. I love him. But he was doing that. He got arrested. He ended up doing 4 years. He got sentenced in 5, but did 4 years. He went upstate.
Okay. And when did you start engaging in the street life?
It wasn't until high school. I was totally against street life, gang life. It was like, it wasn't for me. I was just like, I'll never get into that. Now, so I got into it for the wrong reasons. A lot of people, like, they grew up a certain way. For me, it was, I wanted to be like my dad in terms of my dad and me. We have completely different personalities. He's like that extrovert people person. Anywhere he was in Sunset Park, he was street famous. In Dominican Republic, street famous everywhere he went. And I'm an introvert, so I'm more reserved, more quiet. So, but I wanted that fame that he had. So, but I didn't have his personality. So in high school, when all these things come up, you want girls, you want fame, all these things. I'm like, I don't have that charisma that my dad had. So I'm trying to figure out a way to gain that. And it was so stupid. I was like, I saw my friends that were Dominicans that were Trinitarios, and I was like, yo, I was already hanging out with them, and they never pressured me to anything. But I was like, let me be part of this clique because I want to be cool. I want to get girls. I want to get all these type of things. So, that's why I went into it.
Okay. And how old were you?
I was 14. I was 14 years old.
Damn.
Yeah, I was 14 years old.
Do you remember the day that you came home to that gang? Or was it gradual?
In terms of how, like that I
like do you remember the day you say, okay, I'm gonna be a Trinitario? You remember that exact day they say, okay, let's do this?
I'm trying to remember. I don't know if I remember the exact day. I know that they were like, are you sure? Like, you sure you want to do this? They were letting me know, like, the deal, what it was, the people that they beefed with. And honestly, in FDR High School where we were at, it was everybody against the Trinitarios. There was like I never even seen something like that. Like because I grew up in a Crip neighborhood, so it was like always Crips with blood and whatnot, and Kings. There was one time that honestly the Crips, the Bloods, and the Land Kings joined up together to come against. And I was like, I didn't get it. I was like, yo, what's this hatred? Like, it's wild. It was wild. So I remember when I did it, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And like, I'm gonna be honest with you, I wasn't like this tough dude or anything. But when I got in, like my mind, like I don't know what it was. It was like honestly, I could compare it to like a spell. Like my mind just like got twisted. And like all I wanted to do was get street fame. So like, and I would do it by any means. So I wasn't maybe the toughest, the strongest, the tallest, but I was just the craziest. But it wasn't from a point that I wanted, like I was tough. It's just I was hungry for fame. So I did whatever, it took.
Okay. And before you joined the Trinitarios, did you know that everybody was against you guys before you joined that? Okay.
Not at all. Not at all. It was new to me. I never knew about Trinitarios until I got to high school. So I heard about DDPs and stuff like that before, like in a small measure. And what's crazy is that I didn't know this, but my father was Trinitario in prison. Because it started as a prison. But I never knew that. I was until later on my older sister told me that he was, and I was like, what? But yeah. So I didn't know anything about it.
Okay. So once you became a Trinitario, did a lot more stuff start happening? Did you start getting into a lot of stuff? Let's speak about some of the incidents you got into with different organizations when you was at school. What was going on now that you were a Trinitario? What was you doing? Were you trying to prove yourself?
Absolutely. I got into a fight, like even like maybe like a few weeks before I was Trinitario because I was already hanging out with them and they had beef with the Crips. So I already got into a fight with Crips even before I was a Trinitario. And honestly, it was just like all the time I was coming home. Like my mom didn't know I was in the gang, but I was coming home with bruises, fights, and my mom was like, "What's going on?" This and this, and I'm like, "Hey, I can't stay shut. I can't do this. I can't do that." And I ended up before I got arrested for my big thing. I got suspended from FDR for just doing some stupid stuff. Like I was a kid, wanted popularity. I got on top of a table and I screamed in the middle of a lunch. I was like, I screamed Patria, right? So all the security knew me. They were like, yo, go get Ariel crew. So I was like running and I was short and skinny. So the security grabbed me, launched me to the wall. And I lifted up my hands to hit to punch the security. Luckily I didn't, but like they arrested me, whatever. So they suspended me from school for that. For like 4 months, I had to go to another high school for suspension. But I would always travel back and forth to FDR just to like hang out and stuff. But since I knew that we beefed with the Crips, and I would be alone sometimes because I was not inside the school, I used to walk with a machete. So like a machete, like I don't even know how big, but I used to walk with, I don't even know, right now I don't even know how I used to fit that in my pants. Like I'm in the door right now walking, I'm like, how you walk with a machete in your pants? But
right.
So, I walked in with a machete and I remember one time I was in a pizzeria and a whole bunch of Crips just passed me and they saw me and they knew who I was. So they were like, you want to fight? And I'm not dumb. Like I'm the only one here and there's like 10 of them outside. I know they ain't going to fight me one-on-one. They want to jump me. So I was like, all right, no problem. So I pulled out a machete on them right there inside the pizzeria. And they all, they all dipped. They all ran, but they snitched me out. They snitched me out to a police officer and he arrested me. So, I caught a charge for that.
Damn. So was the beef with the Crips, was that ongoing?
Absolutely. Like I told you, that time where the Bloods, the Crips, and the Land Kings, like came up, that was like around that time. Like I didn't understand it because, the beef with the Crips was before I joined. So I'm trying to remember what it was. What was the deal? Was it, was it because we were loud? Because we were like always like funny or doing jokes or something. I don't know what the origin or the source of the beef was. But it got to a point that the Bloods, the Crips, and the Kings joined together. And luckily, when that happened, they didn't do nothing to us because it was too close to the school premises. So it was like it was gonna be too crazy if they did anything. But then towards the end, like before I got arrested, with my big crime, it was like mostly with the Kings. Like it dwindled down. The stuff with the Crips, it dwindled down, and it was like most of the Kings. And it was, when I look back at it now, it was just like it was stupid things. It was like nothing major. It's not like somebody did something to their family or anything like that. It was just high school drama.
Right. Is there some kind of underlying friction between Dominicans and Puerto Ricans?
Absolutely. Me growing up as a child, just hearing stories, especially in Sunset Park, it was just like Dominicans versus Puerto Ricans, who was better, this and that. And there was definitely something going on there. And especially, and then as a teenager, being Trinitario, yeah, there was beef between Lion King. Like, there were scenarios that I wasn't a part of, but that the Trinitarios did crazy things to Lion Kings and vice versa, that they got us alone and they sliced Trinitarios up, and same thing, Trinitarios slicing Lion Kings up in Sunset Park. I wasn't a part of that part, but yeah.
Okay. And being that you was in this gang stuff, when did it come from? So it went from fists to weapons. So you was into weapons also, or was you mostly fist fighting?
I was mostly fist fighting.
Okay.
I did weapons. When I did weapons, that's when I caught my charge, my big charge. But yeah, it was mostly weapons. I was fighting all the time, just fist fighting, gang brawls, in the trains, in the in the streets. Nothing too much inside the school because we try not to.
That shit is
get
just so
suspended and
crazy.
stuff.
It's just so crazy to me hearing this, man. Man, okay. Let me ask you this, man. When you joined the Trinitarios, did you ever lay down at night and ask yourself, "Yo, what the hell am I doing with these? What am I doing, man? Why am I doing this?" Did you have any nights like that?
Honestly, I didn't. Not while I was out. No, it was just like I didn't have a vision for my future. You understand? I was just thinking about the now. I was already in it. And the crazy thing was, so the Trinitarios, I've seen you. I don't know if you understand. In terms of the prison and streets is a little bit different. So it's the same dynamics, a little bit different. So, you have a first head, then you have a second head, then you have a third head. So in the streets, I had my first, my second, my third head, but then it came to a point that they wanted to split us up, and not like in division, but they wanted to put all the kids that were 18 and under in like one set, and everybody 18 and over in one set. So because I was just doing crazy things, like I told you, I wasn't the toughest or anything like that, but I was just crazy. So I was all in about. So they put me as the first head for everybody 18 and under.
Okay.
Within 6 months of joining the gang. So I had only 6 months in the gang, and they put me as the first head of everybody 18 and under.
So real quick,
bro.
In those 6 months, had you put in a lot of work in those 6 months?
Yeah, nothing in terms of like with weapons, but yeah, in terms of fighting, yeah. I was always out and about, always the first one, always never back down. Like that's who I was.
So let me say, it's like you was catching a wreck. Did this become fun to you? Did it become recreation?
I don't know. I don't know if it became wreck. It was just it seemed like something I had. It seemed like something I had to do.
Okay. Did you become, before we get into your big charge, did you become more violent when you joined the organization?
Oh, absolutely. Like I told you. It wasn't now that I was like a perfect kid. I was just a normal kid. I like to have fun, like to joke around, do prank calls, things like that. It wasn't like I wasn't, I grew up in the hood, but I wasn't like a street dude. Like I wasn't out in the corner hanging out because I had, my mom, and I had a stepdad as well. And they, try to keep me alive. But definitely when I joined the gang, a different person. Like I've gotten into fights before then, like in school, just like minor things. But when I joined it, definitely turned into a different person.
And how does your mother and stepfather feel about you being in that gang? Did they know?
They knew towards the end, like before I got arrested, like they started seeing like my beads and stuff like that. Like I tried to hide it and stuff, but they saw it. They knew, especially when I was getting into fights all the time, and you know, me coming home with bruises and stuff like that. They knew, but they didn't really speak outwardly. They didn't speak directly to me about it.
Okay. You got the Crips, you got the Bloods, you got the Latin Kings in the street.
Now, and we have our major rival technically is the DDP, which is another Dominican group. Which is
that's what I was going to ask you. Who was your major rivals? Like
no, our major in the high school we were in, it was the Crips, but outside of it, it was DDPs. I remember one time in Sunset Park, like we just had a meeting. We used to have meetings on Fridays. When we just finished having a meeting, and then somebody told us, like, the DPs were out to get us in Sunset, like they were gonna sneak up on us and whatever. I'm like, all right. So my friend who wasn't at the meeting, I don't even know why he was in the meeting. He was in the meeting. I guess he wanted to join, but he had a BB gun. Now, but he was faking it, saying that it was a real gun because it looked real. Right. But he was, he was just friend. Anyway, so he was like showing it all this and that. So we're going down a hill. So in Sunset Park, they got hills. And we're going down and we see like a whole bunch of them like just, coming. Like it was like some movie stuff, honestly. Like, I don't know if you ever seen like the West Side Story, like that, yeah. Like just the opposite gang coming at us. We're like, oh. So my second head was the one leading the meeting because the first wasn't there for whatever reason. And he told my boy, he was like, yo, let me get the gun. Like, because he thought it was a real gun. So he took it. And then once he shot it. And when he realized it was a BB gun, it was wow. Like it was street, like it was a brawl, and people like got divided all over the place. And then we scattered, like we had bats. People got arrested. It was crazy. So they were our main.
Why though? Why?
I honestly don't know, bro. I honestly don't know. I know before I got in the gang, there was like some beef between guys in the gang. Like there was some personal stuff between guys in the DDP and the Trinitarios. There was some personal stuff, but even overall, we still like that. Like generalized, like there was on paper, they were our rivals.
Okay, and I do a lot of interviews with Dominicans, and a lot of Dominicans speak on Caballo. He's like everybody loves Caballo. Yeah. He was When you joined the Trinitarios, was Caballo somebody you guys learned about? Did they teach you about Caballo?
Absolutely. We had to, if we didn't know our history, like we would get disciplined. We needed to know our history. We needed to know like our codes of conduct. Like we needed to know that. Like they would test us like, hey, this and that. And if we didn't know about a certain amount of time, we would get disciplined. So definitely, yeah.
Okay. And I keep on hearing you say your big charge. What was the big charge you ended up catching?
So that's where everything changed for me. So once I became the head of everybody 18 and under. So imagine I joined the gang, my head is already twisted. So when I joined, so when they promote me, my head gets even more twisted. So it's like, I'm the head, like I'll make sure that, nobody's gonna put us down. Like, so anyways, I had a kid who was in the gang who was under me. He went to school in Queens, Long Island City, Queens, and he got jumped by Latin Kings. So he called me, letting me know that they jumped him and whatever. So I'm like, all right, don't worry, we'll be there like in 2 days with a whole bunch of us. We're gonna go there and we're gonna, solve the situation. So we went, and he came up to me. He told me, hey, listen, I don't want to jump any of them. I just want to fight one-on-one with the kid that I was supposed to fight with one-on-one. I want to prove to him that I can beat him one-on-one. What happened is that he fought him one-on-one, then they jumped him. So he just wanted to prove that he could beat him one-on-one. So I was like, and I said, honestly, I told him, nah, I said, I'm gonna stab somebody today. Like I'm gonna stab one of them. And he was like, nah, chill, chill. My street name was Spider. So they were like, yo, chill, Spider, now. Like, nah, don't do that. I just want to fight on one-on-one. So I said, all right, no problem. But in my mind, I was like, I just told him that. I'm like, in my mind, I was still gonna do it.
Right.
And to tell you the truth, it was like, why? Like, it was just like, that wasn't me. It was just like, that was my way of thinking now. So we see that Lion Kings, and it's like a movie again. It's like on one side, it's a whole bunch of like 20 something of them. And our side is like 20 something of us. So he wants to fight him one-on-one. So he fights him one-on-one. And my boy, he was a good fighter. He won, honestly. So I was up in the front, and I was like, hey, ese patria. When he won, I was like, ese patria. And then Lion King was like, hey, don't say that around here. And I was like, what? And I was like, once I went to say it again, like I blinked my eye because I was speaking, like one of them just came and punched me real quick, like just sucker punched me. So he did that. And when he did that, he just ran. So I had to book back on. So I had like a snapping bottle or something. I threw it at him, but I missed. Listen, I'm Dominican, but I'm a bad baseball player. So I'm embarrassed. Anyways, I threw it and I missed. And then like one of them like had a big, I don't even know how he got that big, had a big rock like this through it, but he missed. So once that happened, it was like a whole brawl broke out. Like a whole brawl broke out between us. It was us versus them. And I'm just, honestly, we were winning. Like I don't care about the gang stuff anymore, but I'm just saying we were winning. A whole bunch of them were on the floor. And I couldn't remember who was the person who punched me, but I was pissed that they punched me. So, I took my knife and, I stabbed one of them. I didn't do it to try to kill anybody or anything like that. I just did it to send a message. But what happened, what I knew afterwards, is that it punctured one of the arteries of the person. So that person was losing a whole bunch of blood. And so if he would have gotten to the hospital 5 minutes later, he would have died.
Mm.
So like, that happened, and literally, like, I don't even know how the cops got there so quick. Like the people with the suits, the detectives, everybody got there like within 5 minutes. So he couldn't even escape. So like 20 something of us got arrested that day, and I was hit with a something murder charge, gang assault, and some other stuff I don't remember. But so I was
So what happened after that?
So I got arrested. I was 15 years old when that happened. So I couldn't go to Rikers Island. So I went, they sent me to Spofford because I was 15 years old. So I was they were offering me 3 to 9 years in prison, being tried as an adult, even though I was a juvenile, but I was being tried as an adult. My bail was $250,000. When I heard that, I was just like, dang, man, like, ain't no way I'm coming out of this.
Right.
So I was there and I went to Spofford. I was only in Spofford for like 5 days. And then they transferred me down to a facility in Brooklyn called Crossroads. And I was there until I got sentenced.
And how long did you get sentenced to?
I got, luckily, I got 1 1/3 to 4. So 1 1/3 to 4. Mm-hmm.
And you went upstate?
Yeah, I went upstate. So it was still under the juvenile ranks. So I didn't get to do through New York State, but I went upstate. Yeah. So I went to I don't know, it was a medium place for juvies. Yep.
And how was that place you got to? Was it gangs there also?
Yeah, they were gangs, but honestly, the craziest stuff I saw was downstate in Brooklyn. Like I saw, there was not a day I didn't see a fight.
Speak about that when you was in Brooklyn. Speak about that. What was the name of that facility?
It was Crossroads. Crossroads.
Speak about it.
Yeah, it was in Brownsville. Yeah, you saw everything there. I was the minority. So the thing is, in juvie, you see how in prison, the Trinitarios, they have a majority, like, in prison. But in juvie, I was the minority. So you have Bloods, the Crips, you have some Lion Kings, but definitely was the minority. I got there. You saw since we were juvies, I was only 15, we were all teenagers, we had to go to school. So on the street floor, in the school floor, there was always fights, whether it was gang related or not. But nothing, crazy like Rikers, like in terms of people cutting each other. I didn't see that. People didn't have shanks or anything like that, but definitely it was fights every single day.
What was the age range?
When I got to the state, it was the max that you could have is 21. But in downstate, I only saw the oldest was like 18 that I saw. I'm pretty sure you could have been older, but it's like if you caught your crime before you were 15 or before, you were there. So if you were 16 and over when you caught your crime, you were in Rikers.
Okay, and you said that they called you fighter, and out of your organization at that time, you was one of like the craziest ones. So when you got into these juvenile facilities, did you still carry on the same way, like crazy, turning up, or did you calm down?
No, so I calmed down. So when I was in Spofford on my third, I was there. That's you asked me that question, like, did I ever, like, when I slept, I'm like, what am I doing? So it hit me once I was facing 3 to 9 years and I had the $250,000 bail. I was like, when they told me the $250,000 bail, that judge, tears started coming out my eyes. I was like, yo, what did I get? That's when reality sinked in. And I was like, yo, I just messed up my life. So I was in Spofford in the Bronx. I was only there for 5 days, but on the third day there, they were like, hey, we have a chapel service. Anybody want to come through? I was like, yeah, whatever. I heard about God my whole life. My family was Catholic, but honestly, church was boring. So I was just like, when I thought about God, I thought about something boring. But I was like, man, I'm in a tight spot. If God is real, he's the only one that can help me. So I went there. They preached about Jesus. And, they were like, hey, if anybody want to make Jesus their Lord and Savior, come to the front. I went to the front. And, I did it just because I wanted God to take me out of jail. Honestly, that was my reason. And I remember that I read like the book of Matthew, a book in the Bible. I didn't understand jack. Like I read it like mad quick. Didn't understand anything, but I thought I read the whole Bible already by just reading one book in the Bible. I thought I read the whole thing. So I was like, and I read it, and in my mind, I was like, all right, God. So I was trying to use God. I was like, all right, God, I read the Bible now. Like, take me out. Like,
right.
And I wanted to be out, but in the back of my mind, like I knew I'm still gonna be involved in the same thing. So when I got transferred to Brooklyn, I was like, man, if I'm really trying to get serious about God, if I'm really trying to prove to him that I don't want to be in this lifestyle, because I'm trying to get God to take me out. And I know that if I'm living a two-faced life, that ain't gonna work for me. It's not gonna work for him. So I still rep Trinitarios, but what I try to stay out of trouble. I did get into fights in there, honestly, but it wasn't nothing that I looked for primarily. Probably like one time, but it wasn't. I avoided it at all costs, not because of anything. I just try to, not because in there, if you get into fights, the judge sees it. But now I know that because I was charged as an adult, it really didn't matter because compared to like people who had like real juvenile charges. But that's why I did. I was like, no, I don't want to get into trouble.
Okay, and so as your time in there, did you become like a model inmate?
Yeah, towards the end, when I got upstate, for sure. Okay. People knew from the get-go that I believed in God, and it was wild. So the way that I came out was a miracle because I only did a unit. So my CR was 2 years and 8 months. So I was supposed to do 2 years and 8 months. Now, I'm pretty sure you understand the prison system. When you have a violent crime, you don't make your first board. Never. Like you don't make your first board. You make your first board if you have like a drug charge, robbery without a weapon or anything like that. So when I got upstate, I think I did 9 months downstate. Then I went upstate, and I was supposed to hit the board in May once I hit 1 year. And I was telling everybody, man, I believe God could take me out my minimum. And because they saw that I was committed to God and that I was like real about it, they were like, yeah, bro, like, yeah, you can do it, whatever. And the guards like, yeah, you can do it. And they were like, what's your crime? And I was like, I got attempted murder. And they're like, no. They're like, don't get your hopes up, man. You're not gonna make your first board. And other people who had my same charge, they were like, listen, you're gonna get smacked. They're not gonna let you out on your first board. I'm like, nah, I'm gonna try to get letters and recommendation, whatever. They were like, bro, I went with like 5 letters and recommendation. They still smacked me. They don't care about that. Like, it's like a rule. Like, if you have a violent crime, they're not gonna let you out on your minimum. And I remember just reading in the Bible, what's impossible with men is possible with God. And I remember just reading the Bible every day and just reading my faith and seeing how God gave a child to Abraham when he was just 100 years old. Things that are like just impossible, honestly. So I was like, man, God, if you could do it for them, these people in the Bible, you could do it for me. So I was praying. I used to go to the chapel services in there. And I remember the chaplain, I just met him because I got there in February. My board was in May. And I told him, I probably had like a month in upstate. And I was like, hey, man, can you write me a letter of recommendation? So when I go to the parole board, they can see like, I'm doing good or whatever. And he told me, honestly, because I don't know you for over a year, I can't write you that letter because I can't vouch for you, because if you go, I give you that letter and let's say you do something crazy, it looks bad on me. So my recommendations will never like amount to anything if I do that for everybody. So I was like, all right. And I was like, but he's like, I'll pray for you though. So he prayed for me. I went to the board. Literally, I sat down on the seat of the parole board. I only sat down for 30 seconds. They were like, you got to come back in 3 months. I was like, 3 months? Because usually when we go for the parole board, they smack you with 1 year or 2 years. So you come back in a year or 2 years. Like 3 months. They're like, we don't have your sentencing minutes ready. Some paperwork, sentencing minutes. I don't even understand what that is to this day. And I was like, okay. And I was honestly upset because I wanted to know whether I was going to go home or not. So they shipped me back out to the facility I was in. And the facility I was in, because we are still considered juveniles, your family can call you once into the facility, 1 time a day. So I get 1 phone call plus a incoming phone call a day.
Okay.
Yeah, so around 7 p.m., my mom would call me around that time. So she didn't know what happened. So I'm desperate to let her know, like, what happened on the parole board. So I'm in my cell. Now I'm pacing back and forth. And in my mind, I'm saying, I want my mom to call me. I want my mom to come. I'm just anxious. And then I hear a voice, like literally, like out of nowhere. It wasn't me, but I heard a voice inside my mind that said, I want God to call me. So it's like, imagine you hearing a voice in your mind that's not you. And then you're like, you do. But the thing is, I didn't even have time to think, because literally, as soon as that voice was in my head, 2 seconds later, the CEO came to my cell. He's like, yo, hey, you got a phone call. So I was like, all right, I'm thinking it's my mom. I go to the phone, and on the phone is the chaplain. First time he ever called, like I was shocked. Like, the chaplain calling me. And he's like, hey, I'm calling like to find out how I went on the parole board. And I was like, they told me I got to come back in 3 months because they didn't have my sentencing minutes ready. And he goes, wow, you see how God works? Like, that never happened before, because he's been working in that system for a while. He's like, that's never happened before. He goes, right now, I hear the Holy Spirit telling me to write you that letter of recommendation. Even though I don't know you that, I'm gonna write you that letter of recommendation. And I'm like, oh, snap. So, I ended up going 3 months later, and I had to go back 1 more time, but it was like a month later because some other stuff. But to make a long story short, they allowed me to go home in my minimum when it was like impossible. Like, I went there and they were like, don't make us regret. Don't make us regret,
right.
like, sending you home early, because they saw the severity of my crime. So I was shocked. I was like, yo, God is real. Like, everybody, even when I came home, like, because I got my GED in there, and then I was like 16 or turning 17, I had my GED, I was going home. And then I remember this one dude, he looked at me, he's like, yo, what you been doing, man? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, nah, man, that's weird, man. You going home with this charge, with attempted murder charge, you going home in the minimum, you got your GED. He's like, what you been doing? I'm like, yo, I've been praying. The guy, he's like, nah. He's like, what you been doing? He was like, not believing, like, what you been doing? I was like, and I was telling him, man, it's the blessing of God, man. And I remember a month before, I don't even know if I knew already that I was going to be going home, but a month before. So it was crazy. Like I haven't spoken to nobody that was Trinitario. Like they sent me like a letter one or two times, but I hadn't spoken to them the whole entire time that I was in there. Like the people from outside, that people in my head, he calls me like a month before, first time he calls me. I already had a year and a half in there. And he's like checking, hey, what's up? How you doing? So what I didn't tell you was that 3 months into me being in prison, my father dies in the Dominican Republic. So that hit me. That hit me hard. Because after my dad did 4 years, he got deported. So he got deported to DR. And I would go see him every year. And he was already sick. And when he heard that I was locked up, he didn't know anything I was in yet. So when he heard that I was locked up, that hit him even worse, because he was in the prison system and he's like my boy, my son, my 15-year-old son in prison, like the heck. So he was suffering with strokes and stuff like that. And so 3 months into it, he passed away. So that was another wake-up call for me. That hit me hard. Like that hit me so hard. And I couldn't even go to his funeral because he was in DR. I was locked up and he was in DR. I never got to see my dad in a casket. I never got to see my dad before he died or anything like that. I never got to speak to him because I was locked up. So that hit me. So fast forward, when my head calls me, he's like, hey, how you doing? Whatever. I'm like, yo, I'm good. And I'm telling him, let me speak to him. Let me tell you something. When I come home, I'm not gonna be part of this no more. And he was like, man, listen, we respect it, man. You put in a lot of work. We respect it. Don't worry. Like, we know, like, all you've been through with your family.
Wow.
Like, just come home and you'll be good. And honestly, I was a shocker because, like, it doesn't matter who you are. Like, if you're trying to leave, like, listen, I've had to mess up people who left the gang. So people, when I was out and people wanted to leave the gang, I had to mess them up. So like anytime. So me leaving, like I thought it was gonna be the same, but they were like, nah. And I remember when I did come home, I saw them in the streets, like just walking past them, and it was all respect and everything, and so.
Wow. So when you came home, though, you was committed to God and everything. Was it a temptation to go back?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. And so I came out at 16, 2 weeks before turning 17, and I don't know where. Like now, it's been 13 years. So, and I've been serving God for this whole time. But wow. I didn't know what that meant. Like if you was to look at me, like I didn't know what it meant to be a Christian. I just know God helped me. Like I know that God was real because He helped me. I cried out to Him. He was there when I cried in my cell. Nobody was in my cell. He was there with me when my dad died and I cried all night. He was there with me, in my pain. So that's all I knew. I didn't know what it was to really live the Christian life. So I came out and I was like, yo, I'm out. Now I have this understanding. God is real. He loves me. He helped me. But I don't know what it means to live as a Christian, as a son of God. So I was like, yo, I want girls. I want like X amount of girls. I want to be in parties and stuff like that. I just didn't want to bang anymore because I saw that got me. But I remember this one time, it was like maybe it had to be like a month and a half after I was in some club and there were some DDPs in there. Right. And I think I was drinking or something. And I was there with my cousin and some friends, and then they recognized me, right? So they were like, hey, yo, you Spider? And I was like, yeah. And then they were like, my friend, he was like, nah, but he's not Trini no more, right? But me, I don't know what it was, like my ego, pride, I was like, nah, I'm still Padre, I ain't what? Like it was just stupid. Like, I'm still Padre, I ain't what? It was stupid because I was the only one there, like by myself, like with my friend, like if they wanted to do anything, they could have like done it. But they were like, nah, man, just chill, man. Like, nah, we just wanted to say what's up and whatnot. And honestly, when he did that inside of me, I was like, yo, God, thank you. And I was like, God, thank you. And I'm sorry. Like, I'm like, I'm sorry for acting like a fool. and I'm thank you for protecting me, because like there was a whole bunch of them. There was no way that I was gonna, come out of that good.
Okay.
And then like it was like probably like 2 months afterwards that I fully I understood that I couldn't be living a double life. I was like, if I'm fully forgot, I'm fully forgot. I can't be like, so then I fully committed, and and that was that.
Okay. And a couple more questions before we close. You said that your head called you towards the end of your sentence, right? That's when you first heard from the gang?
Yeah.
Do you think that if they was keeping in contact with you during your sentence, it would have been harder for you to commit to God? If these guys kept calling you, hey, what's going on, man? How you doing? If they kept checking up on you, you think you would have came back home to the gang? Was it that lack of support that helped you?
Maybe. I think it would have definitely been harder. I think, for example, if I would have been in Rikers, I think it all worked out for the good. Because if I was in Rikers and being surrounded by more Trinis and me being more like around that, it would have been harder for me to like negate, because it was like I'm Trini, and it's like if I'm in Rikers, like, and I'm gonna be bang. I can't like say no to them if they like, you understand. It was that the fact that I was in juvie, I was in front, and I was the only one. I was the only padre. Like it was like 1 or 2 times that another padre was there, like, but then they left, they went to another house or whatever. But I was always the only one. So there was like no thing. I was just like, nah, I'm not banging, I'm not fighting. So it was not ever a gang brawl, because we were never big in number. But definitely if I was like in Rikers and then I had other access to like outside people, definitely would have been harder.
Okay. This last question before we close on part 1, man. I got to ask you this. Have you ever looked up the dude you stabbed? Have you ever wondered what happened to him? Like, how is he doing right now?
Honestly, I have looked him up, but I haven't been able to like find, because I don't know. He can walk past me right now and I wouldn't know it's him. I don't know his face, because it's just I saw him that one time and that's it. I know that when I would speak to my lawyer, he told me like he was in a wheelchair because it was like around the leg area where it hit an artery. So I pray that hopefully he recovers from that. That was a long time ago, but honestly I don't know. I have looked him up though, but I haven't been able to find him. Because I know his name just because of like the record, like I'm able to see who it was and stuff, but I don't know who it was.
All right, as we close this one, you got a lot of people watch this platform. What would you tell that kid that's watching this platform, man, that's on the fence of joining the gang? Speak to him real quick for me, man, like you did on your Instagram. That's how you caught my attention.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's no life in it. Like, it's dumb. Like, you have to ask yourself why. Like, why are you doing this? Like, are you in the hood? Do you need protection? Like, don't. At the end of the day, people like your family is your family. You understand? I know you join a gang to join a family, but your family is your family. At one point, you can't. How are you gonna trust people that you just meet from one moment to another, or somebody that you just know for a few months? You understand? They can betray you. They can, like, you're doing something. Listen, you know that person that I told you that pulled out the gun in Sunset? It was a BB gun.
Yes.
He died a few months ago.
Damn.
They killed him. He died, and he tried to give his life to God, when I came out. And he did it for a period, then he went back and he died. My head, that was my head, he's locked up right now, facing multiple murder charges. You understand? There's a whole bunch of people I look up the people who I was locked up with in juvie, people from the Bronx, people from Brooklyn. There's a kid, cool dude from the Bronx, my same age. He did 2-year bid, came out, caught multiple bodies, and now he's in federal prison doing life.
Damn.
Other people came out, people who had murder charges as juveniles, did a small bid because they were juveniles, so they did only 6 years for murder. 6 years for murder. Came out and then got back in for robbery, and now doing like 15 years, things like that. So it's like when you joining a gang, you're not joining nothing good. Like, it's like you reap what you sow. You're joining something destructive. At the end of the day, you'll be destroyed. Like, you're gonna be locked up. You're gonna be killed. Listen, if I would have still been in the gang, guaranteed I would have been dead. Like, I would have been back in prison for murder, or I would have been killed, because just the way that I was going. People would have tried to get me because of what I would have been doing. So it's like there's no No point now.
Okay, and being that you committed to God, is there anybody that you was in a gang with or locked up with that has also committed to God that you keep in contact with? You don't talk to anybody from the, like, you know?
No, and I have a few people from on Instagram and Facebook. You know what's wild? The kid that I went to Queens for, the kid who got jumped.
Mm-hmm.
I told you the kid that he's Christian. He gave his life to Christ, and that had nothing to do with me. Like it was out. Like in another occasion, he gave his life to Christ, and he's married now. He's doing good. Like he's I think he's an X-ray technician in New York.
Oh,
and
damn!
He's doing.
I like to hear that, man. Let's go.
Yeah. He's doing good for himself, and like there's been a bunch of them that I did invite to church when I was out, and like I told you, that kid, unfortunately, who passed away, that hit me hard because he was the one. He was the one who put me in, the one that was the second head. That hit me hard, He passed away because even though he really wasn't, he was still cleaning, but he wasn't really banging it, but he was just doing street stuff, selling drugs, things like that. And yeah, he passed away, unfortunately. They got him. And yeah, but there's been people that I've invited to the church before and stuff, but not really. They haven't committed like that.
Okay. And last question, what brought you to Cali, man? What you got going on now in Cali? How you end up on the West Coast?
Yeah, I'm actually doing a ministry school over here. So I moved my family out here. I'm married. I got 2 kids right now, been married for almost 7 years. But we came over here. There's a good ministry school over here, like legit. Like, so we moved out here and we like it, man. Like, man, are you from New York?
I left New York in '94. I'm in Florida now, South Florida.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, nice. I love Florida. I wanted to move to Florida. But yeah. So I was tired of also like the city life, the traffic, all the stress.
I hate it.
So I'm in a small town. I'm like 2 hours north of Sacramento in a small town, like about 100,000 people, bro. No traffic whatsoever, never. And I remember like driving when I first moved in. I was like, it was 9 a.m. I was driving in the highway, and I was like, is today a holiday or something? Because there's no traffic. There's no traffic yet. But I love it. Yeah.
All right. Let people know what your Instagram is, man.
My Instagram is A Steven C. So A Steven with a V and then C.
All right. Hey, I appreciate everybody tuning in to part 1. Appreciate all the subscribers. I appreciate all the love y'all show me on this channel, especially the Dominicans. You guys show a lot of love. I do the most interviews with Dominicans because when one Dominican see the other, it's loyalty. They follow each other. The loyalty is just different. But I appreciate everybody that came on this channel. This is Easy Win, Florida Prison Talk. We out of here.